Welcome to the Wolf Power Club, the weekly podcast where we discuss energy, industry and politics. I'm your host Alex. I've sold and bought a few companies and also I've sold billions of litres. Join me on this journey to net zero. Download on Apple Podcasts. Season 1 brought to you by AIM Recruit, the leading recruiters in logistics, transport and energy at www.aimrecruit.com. Guys, welcome to the Wolf Power Club podcast, the energy leading podcast. Now today we've got a very exciting guest. As I've always said, I've wanted the podcast to be a toolkit for any director, any person that wants to have a startup. But today's kind of, whether you're a startup or whether you're the finance director or whether the managing director is perhaps one of the most important allies, and that's your insurer. So today, I'm very, very delighted to welcome Carl Gurney, Renewable Energy Director for Gallagher Insurance. Carl, how's it going?
Yeah, really well. Thanks, Alex. Really appreciate the invite and looking forward to our chat.
So I guess the first question is, how did you get into the insurance industry? And I'll tell you something to make you feel a bit more relaxed. It's not the first time I've asked this question to someone because my father-in-law used to be an underwriter at Lloyd's. So how did you get into the insurance industry? I asked exactly the same to my father-in-law.
Yeah, probably not too dissimilar to most other people. I mean, I've been in this industry now over 30 years, and I'll be perfectly frank, when I was younger, I was really unsure what I wanted to do as a career. I had a really good job, unfortunately got made redundant, so I was kind of in that limbo. And a friend of mine was working at an insurance brokers at the time, and they were looking for somebody, so I applied and got the job, and 30 years later plus, here I am.
Well, guys, you've heard it on the podcast. We're going to get 30 years of experience over the rest of the podcast. So I'm excited in that. I think the other bit is just for our listeners, just before we go into sort of more detail, can you just explain to someone what the difference is between someone like Lloyd's of London that's an underwriter and someone like Gallagher that's the broker that probably will be dealing with more of our customers in terms of the business-to-business side?
Yeah, so you've got insurers and Lloyd's of London. They're all one and the same. So insurers employ underwriters, and they basically look at the risk profile of, whether it be private or commercial sectors, and they underwrite those risks that they see and put the premiums to it. Where we sit within Gallagher, we're an insurance broker, so we're an intermediary, so we're the go-between customers and insurers. So we're the ones that gather the information, understand the risks of the clients, and then present those to the insurers in the best possible light we can. Some insurers will deal directly with clients, via online sort of quote and buy systems, but most commercial businesses would use a broker.
Now, we met Carl, didn't we, at All Energy? And for those that are listening to the podcast who haven't been to All Energy, about 10,000 people descend upon Glasgow once a year to basically hear every part of the renewable industry sector. Now, when you talk about customers, you are an expert on the renewable industry sector. How did that interest or that specific business division develop at Gallagher?
Gallagher been involved across different sectors across many years, from traditional sort of energy, upstream, downstream, right the way through. So as the world and landscapes evolve and businesses change and policy change and things are delivered, and as a broker we have to adapt to that and specialise. So that's what we do. We've been doing this for a huge amount of time at Gallagher, and that's where it all comes from, really, from our perspective.
Now, I just wanted to see if you could expand to our listeners. What areas of risk would, when you're insuring, such as a renewables asset or parts of a renewable company that you have to consider that our listeners probably would not have even thought about? Because I said a lot of our guys may well be going into director positions and suddenly have on their brief to, do the insurance tender. What sort of things do you have to consider that our listeners may never even guessed of?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing for us is we understand renewable energy, so we understand the sort of technology side. So in terms of that, we understand that ours is more sort of understanding the business profile, what activities are that business undertaking, what's their corporate structure. Are we insuring the right entities at the right levels, and also then looking at the risks associated with that business in terms of mirroring those up against the plans they've got. And the business profile of risk will be far-reaching, everything from sort of general liability risks of sort of slips, trips, falls, right the way through to sort of cyber, even the risk of being hacked, etc. And then there's directors themselves, and we're looking at the risk to them personally in terms of things like directors and officers insurance that we recommend that they consider and take. So it's very much that getting really underneath the skin of the business, understanding the challenges, the growth plans, what risks those bring, and then delivering solutions and transfer mechanisms that underpin that growth for them.
Do you guys have to worry at all about the contract, say, from the energy customer to the end consumer? Because I know in my time of supplying energy to, people such as facilities that the state uses that have to have industries, there's various penalties on the business to business side if their energy is not delivered to them, because that might mean a certain service that's a sort of frontline service that doesn't happen. Do you have to worry about that at all, or is that not so much in your risk thing, but what you perhaps manage customers' expectations is what they can or can't commit to in contracts?
Yeah, I think you're right. It's understanding the clauses within those contracts and then what we can achieve within the market and what is insurable and what isn't insurable. So understanding the T's and C's and what clients are signing up for is absolutely critical in terms of their failure to supply. What availability clauses are they making? Do they have the relevant sort of force majeure reasoning in there? What's the downtime look like, and then how can we maybe transfer some of that risk over to the insurers, but also make sure that we're balancing it. But the contracts have to be balanced. Nobody's going to sign up to that if you've got get out of jail free cards all over them. So, you've got to put some protection in for the off taker, but also got to protect the client at the same time. So it's about getting the balance right to enable the deals on commercially viable solutions.
Um, Although we're going to come back to some more insurance questions, I think a lot of people tuning in today will know Gallagher not just from insurance but from rugby. Obviously, you can see from these XL fingers that I would have been amazing rugby prop if I hadn't gone down the energy route. Lost to the energy industry. But how did Gallagher get involved in rugby? And it's funny, everyone I told that said, yeah, I've got Carl's director coming on from Gallagher. The first one said, oh, they're the guys involved in rugby. How did that come about, and what's Gallagher's relationship with rugby today?
Yeah. Prop's an interesting position for you, Alex. I was a outside centre myself, probably smaller hands. But yeah, I think Gallagher, we've been involved and prior title partners of the Premiership Rugby since 2018. Obviously, we just come back off the back of last season, ended in Northampton Saints, winning against Bath at Twickenham Stadium. And Gallagher game days, are much enjoyed by colleagues, across our business. And from what I hear, the atmosphere at Twickenham was absolutely electric on the day. So, fortunately, I didn't get a chance to go. But we are absolutely fully committed to supporting the game, players, clubs, and as title partner, we are helping to grow the sport and widening its reach, ensuring everybody has the opportunity to experience Gallagher Premiership Rugby. Grassroots engagement has also been central to Gallagher's partnership alongside its support of the professional game, and that includes sponsorship of Project Rugby, and that's a community inclusion programme which continues to break down barriers to increase accessibility into the sport for young people from underrepresented groups and parts of society. So we long want that to continue. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great news. I mean, you might not know this, but the podcast is based very, very close to Twickenham, so it is quite a rugby area here. A few of my neighbours might play for the Harlequins, and you can notice them because they literally are the biggest units walking down the street, but absolute athletes, great values, and they're very polite. So I certainly know, as someone with two young children, I hope they do get into something like rugby because, as you said, that kind of the values you get from winning competing sport, no real difference, from business, but it's about that ideas of teamwork and how success can drive on. So now it's great that you're supporting rugby because I think it is one of those sort of, I think Britain obviously has football, and then there's 4 or 5 sports that are in that pack behind football, and it's great that you're supporting rugby. That's very much, mind the pun, in that pack to support it, and not for the podcast, but at a later date, I can tell people quite a funny story about a fundraising dinner I was at with James Haskell. But it's fair to say he wanted a fuel card in return for eating a certain amount of quantity of food. But yeah, we'll leave that. We'll leave that one there. So going back into Gallagher, I appreciate you only represent a part of the company and not the whole company in the renewable energy sector. But what are you guys looking forward to in the next 12 months, sort of going into 2025? What essentially is the 12 months ahead for you guys?
Yeah, it's difficult for me to answer that for the whole group. We've got so many different sectors, etc., and different facets of the business that will feed into it. I guess the one thing that will be certain is obviously our continued support and the Gallagher Premiership Rugby is the key one for us. So we're looking forward to new season. We're looking forward to what that brings, and actually looking forward to getting out there and supporting our local communities in terms of delivering what we can to support them as well, in conjunction with the Premiership Rugby. So that's ultimately what we'd be looking forward to. Say I'm unable to sort of comment completely on other areas of the business.
And I think it must be exciting time for renewables as well, because I think like everything, it's way too early to know what the future has. But obviously, I think a change of government means there might be more change for opportunity for the renewable companies. If you say a renewable entrepreneur sitting there listening to this podcast, and they were like, okay, I've got a big idea, we're about to get funding, we obviously need to get start looking into things like the insurance and so on. What would you sort of explain to a renewable energy customer of things they should prepare, when they sit down with someone like yourself?
For us, the big ask is early engagement is just absolutely key for us. The earlier we're engaged, the better. So when it's an idea on a paper, start having that conversation with us, because that's where we can really add some value, using our expertise, the history that we have in the sector, and the knowledge that we've got. And then, once we've got that idea and we understand it, we can then start reviewing corporate structure charts. We can start looking at contracts and clauses within those, making sure that there's nothing in there that's going to trip them up or make them unachievable within the marketplace. Obviously, there may be lenders' requirements that can be reasonably onerous or light touch. So again, they need to be looked at and made sure that they can be met. And then in terms of insurance, especially for the power generation and infrastructure projects that are out there, insurers are fairly prescriptive in terms of loss controls they want to see and maintenance controls, etc. So sort of getting involved with these projects early doors, building those into the design stage, adds some real benefit to delivering those projects. And what we ask people to consider us, really, if you engage us early, we can be a cost benefit as opposed to a necessary evil, driven by sort of contracts and legality. And if we're engaged early, we can make the project insurable, which therefore makes it bankable. which should hopefully assist on that front. Insurers understand it better, so you should get better premiums and terms, etc., out of insurance, hopefully. And by following our, an insurer's loss controls and maintenance advice, you should have less downtime. So in theory, your return on investment would go up. So that's what we asked really for the engagement.
No, I think that's a great tip there. I think we've touched on it a few times in today's session, that this idea of being on top of maintenance, having the process in place, having the teams in place. So I guess then, there'll be directors listening here going, Carl's made me think a bit today. I really need to get in contact with the renewable team at Gallagher. I know you do a lot of the big trade shows and so on, but what's a way to specifically get in contact with you guys? And I'm sure we'll put stuff in the show notes below, but what's the best way to contact you guys if people are sitting there thinking, actually, we would like some support on our insurance of our energy sector and a review maybe with you guys?
Yeah, and I agree with you. Hopefully, we make people think a little bit more and realise actually, we can bring a lot of benefit and want to have a conversation with us, which is really the key for us. And I think one of our things is, you're right, it is a requirement. Insurance, like energy, it's always going to be there, but it's about delivering the right solutions to people. And not, you can insure yourself forever and a day, which is great for us. But, there does come a point in everybody's life, where you have to get the balance between transferring it and taking it on yourself. And obviously, to find out a bit more about our approach, we've got our website, which has a renewable energy section on there. And that's got various articles and reports and project lifecycle documents that we've done. So there's lots of information there, and that'll have our contact details. We've got a generic number and email address. Connect with me on LinkedIn as well. I happily love LinkedIn. So send me a connection and an email, and we'll get something set up. Or feel like I might be on X Factor now, but you could call me on 07715 66 731.
Vote for Carl. Brilliant, fantastic. Yeah, guys, we will put a link into the renewable part of Gallagher. I'd really like to thank Carl for your time today. It's been great fun, and I'd just like to say to all the listeners, please share the podcast to your industry friends and those wanting to enter it. But also, I think with today's one, because we focus a lot about how to get into the energy sector and so on, great for those people in your family that are aspiring for a career, in the insurance sector. It's a great listen for them to do. So, Carl, I'd like you to thank you for your time, and it's been great today. Now, this won't
thanks, Alex. Really appreciate you having me on this show.